Hello, friends. Welcome to my Alternative Wisdom Summit. I'm your host, Pamela Davis, and I am your friendly, local, investigative transformationalist. Yeah, I know it's quite a mouthful, and in case you're wondering, it simply means that I'm always on the lookout for information to help you transform your life for the better in ways that are meaningful, satisfying, and rewarding for you. Up front, I should say that I was born with a ferocious curiosity. Except for my fondness for dolls, when I was a child, I was not really a typical little girl. And at a very young age, I began pursuing what you might call uncommon interests. I was that child with the flashlight under the bed, reading Greek mythology after my mother turned out the lights at night. And since then, I've devoted much of my life to the exploration of great wonders and mysteries, and I've been fortunate to be able to work on amazing projects around the world. Projects like psychic archaeology, consciousness studies, and research into life after death, and so much more. And I've seen the exciting transformation that can follow when doors of understanding open up in our lives. I've actually experienced this transformation and excitement in my life. And time and again, I've witnessed transformation in the lives of others, which is why I'm here with you today, inviting you to step through one of those doors with me right now. However, before we get started, there are two items of procedure that we need to cover. First, in order for you to get full benefit of this interview, please browse to Swaha Ron's page, and you do that by typing into your browser address bar www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/Swaha, and that's S as in Sam, W-A-H-A. You'll know you're on the right screen when you see the photo of our guest, Dr. Ron Holman, or Swaha Ron, as his friends call it. There are multiple things you can do on this page, but right now, all I want you to do is locate the box for audience comments and type in the geographical location where you're viewing from. Then, if you hear some little gem in this upcoming interview, and I can promise that you will, and you really like it and you want to share your thoughts with us and with others, we'd love to hear from you. Also, if you have questions about spiritual alchemy, Ormus, or anything else in this interview, this is where you can submit questions. Now, item number 2, Swaha Ron will be giving you a free gift as a thank you for being on this interview, and he'll tell you more about this in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about him. Swaha Ron is without any question an extraordinary corporate CEO, wearing very surprising and multiple hats. He has a PhD in counseling psychology, an MFT license, and he is a certified substance abuse counselor. In 1979, with his lifelong partner Linda, he founded the Holman Group, which is comprised of 4 companies dedicated to, quote, making a difference in people's lives. Dr. Holman is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the 4 companies which provide treatment and services to more than 500 individuals in over 1,200 organizations nationwide. As a result of his dedication to alternative, more cost-effective mental health or substance abuse care, he has been able to provide an unusually wide range of personal and professional services to employees of private and public organizations as they deal with complexities of life in modern society. Unlike so many corporate executives these days, Dr. Holman is personally invested in establishing a deep balance between mind, body, and spirit. I think of him as the high priest of Northridge, and in that capacity he is an ambassador of Maha Sida Herbal Medicine, and we'll find out in just a few minutes what that is. Traveling through India frequently since 1995, Dr. Ron has been on a mission to discover the secret to spontaneous remission of disease to bring home to his wife, Linda. And while in India, he awakened to many ancient Siddha Wonders, which are now gradually coming to the West. Many of those who admire and love this remarkable gentleman call him simply Swaha as a token of affection, and so it's my pleasure and honored to introduce him as Swaha Ron. So welcome, Swaha, to the Alternative Wisdom Summit.
Thank you, Pamela. Who is that guy, anyways?
Well, we're about to find out. Now, Swaha, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your fascinating journey and how you got to where you are from, you know, coming out as a doctor in psychology, to being drawn into Indian mysticism and healing. What happened in that space and time, and what were some of the belief systems that you were brought up with?
I was brought up in a traditional Catholic background, 12 years of Catholic school, and you know, my parents were both you know, the salt of the earth. My mother immigrated from Italy when she was 4. My father was born in the back hills of Missouri, was a Marine, injured at Pearl Harbor, and, you know, work hard, you know, and seeking the American dream. And, you know, I, you know, graduated high school in '64, so it was the height of the 60s, and one thing led to another, and you know, I got swept up in the 60s, and all the stuff that people heard about in the 60s, I participated in spades. And in 1976, I had had enough of the good life, so to speak.
Yeah, such as it was.
Such as it was. And I decided that I had acquired a vast array of experience in how not to do life. And and what happens, you know, that are all bad if you do those things. So I decided that I needed to go back to school and get some traditional degrees, and I finished my bachelor's degree at Northridge in '78, and in '80 I got my master's degree from USC, and in '83 I got my doctorate and got licensed as a marriage and family counselor, and I started talking to corporations about, you know, their employees and the problems that they were going to have with employees who didn't know how to live a balanced life and depended on certain behaviors and certain substances that was inconsistent with being able to focus on accomplishing a job without, you know, making too many errors. So, you know, that's what I did. I started talking to large corporations and continued my education and my licensures, and one thing led to another, and 35 years later I've got about 80 employees, and we contract with you know, 1,200 corporations to provide a variety of mental health related services to those companies and their employees and their management and their human resource department, and handle all sorts of on the job problems and situations.
And so, but now where does your extensive traveling and your exploration come in? Your search for healing modalities, your decision to begin traveling in India, and I assume from what I've heard that you've been to India a number of times, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about this. What prompted this development in your life?
Okay, so when my life became such that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, I decided to start pursuing a spiritual way of life. And very quickly I understood that health was a balance of mind, body, and spirit, and disease was an imbalance in mind, body, and spirit. So I started pursuing a spiritual way of life that started taking me to all sorts of different corners of the earth, and studied with hundreds of teachers, of Buddhist and Jewish and Christian mystics and Hindu priests and Kabbalists and Sufi. And I started at these events that I went to, I started meeting interesting people like yourself. And we instantly discovered that we had this ferocious curiosity about, what else is available. So,
right.
I went to India the first time in 1995, and I was just compelled to go to India. And when I set foot on Indian soil, I truly felt like I was home. I've never had that feeling before. And subsequently, I've been back to India like 12, 14 times and have multiple spiritual advisors and teachers in India. And, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. What most people in the West know is possible and suspect might be possible is so far beyond what most people know about. And it's really interesting and fun for me to be, so far out and at the same time being able to connect to the mainstream of society and to present what I know in a way that is digestible and that's appropriate and helpful.
Oh, and it absolutely is. This is, I'm so glad that I live practically right around the corner, because it's just so much fun to come over and meet the people that come to be with you and to participate in these things, these little events that you create. And it really is a wonderful community, and I'm so glad that you're able to share all the riches that you've garnered from your worldwide travels.
Thank you. I just want to mention that it's really important that for me to say, that I don't know how I got so blessed. I really don't. I think I know lots and lots and lots of people that appear to, be as or more qualified than me to participate in some of the Siddha alchemy that has come to me that I've been asked to bring to the West. And, I truly see myself as a brother to my friends. I really object to being, pointed to or tried to be pushed into some sort of authoritative position. I think that that's a real trap. It's easy to, stand up and be in charge and run things. And at the same time, God is the one that's really in charge. He is the chief and I'm the servant.
I've never seen you push yourself forward or take any stance of authority either, and so I know that what you say is completely true. My own experience. All right, let's talk about the title of our talk today, which is Spiritual Alchemy. Now, I suppose that the people that are watching this now know perhaps a little bit about alchemy. If you have a vision of a guy in a kind of a dark, mysterious room or a cave, and he's got on a pointed hat, and he's working to transform lead into gold, in medieval times. And so this is, of course, the sort of the standard image that comes to mind, but it's much, much bigger and deeper and more subtle and sophisticated than that. But why don't you talk about alchemy and spiritual alchemy?
Thank you. I'll talk mostly from my own experience because I have experienced the effect of the spiritual alchemical substances that have been made available to me in India and that I have brought to the West. And the idea about spiritual alchemy is that, you know, from the standpoint of where thought goes, energy flows, we then amplify the thoughts, which then coalesces into an outcome that is, let's just say, a bigger, more present, more far-reaching, and the spiritual alchemy, alchemical substances, do exactly that. They amplify the effect of my prayers and my meditation. So my meditations are deeper, sweeter, and, you know, most of the time, it's hard for me to tell whether, you know, I'm in meditation or I'm in a meeting. You know, it all seems to flow that, you know, the effect and the intensity of my meditations and my life are blending into one really, really sweet state. So the first thing that I was exposed to in India was Navapashanam. And this is a substance that thousands of years ago became known as the fountain of youth. And when people drink Navapashanam, an ounce once or twice a day, over the course of time, you know, depending on their karma and a variety of other things, interesting things can happen. Really, really interesting things can happen. And the Ormus that we're going to talk about also is we collect the Ormus in the wet method. There's a variety of ways of collecting Ormus. You know, Queen Cleopatra bathed in milk to stay young. Well, that was Ormus, and they used the wet method to collect the Ormus, you know, in Egypt thousands and thousands of years ago. And the Israelites ate manna from heaven in the desert. Well, that was Ormus. So Ormus has been around in many, many, many cultures, and it's not made, it is collected. And it's collected from the fifth state of matter brought through an alchemical portal into a solid or a form that can be utilized.
Well, let's back up a second, because first of all, you know, I told you I was going to ask you. You must get tired of repeating this story, but I hope you don't, because it is a wonderful story. You mentioned Navapashanam, and I want to explain more about what that is and where we're getting it. And so that takes us back to India and the story of the nadi leaves, which is just one of my favorite stories ever.
Sure, it's a fun story. I love telling it. I have a spiritual brother in India by the name of Sri Raman, and he was driving somewhere in the year 2000 and stops his car. He has no reason why he's stopping his car. Then he feels like he's pulled out of the car by spirit up to the front door of a house and knocks on the door. He doesn't know who lives there. People come to the door, they look at him. They look at their watch, they look at him, they slam the door, they come back in 5 minutes with a whole pile of nadi leaves. The nadi leaves were written 25,000 years ago by a rishi by the name of Agastya, who was the final teacher of the immortal Babaji. And they handed him the leaves. Well, obviously the leaves told this family that had been guardians of these leaves for generation upon generation upon generation, that on so-and-so date at so-and-so time, a stranger will come to the door and he's to have the leaves. And they had enough integrity to pass those leaves on to him.
Wow.
So he got a reading on the leaves. The leaves directed him into the jungles of South India and gave him directions by rivers and mountain ranges to find a Navapashanam master. So if he does that, he follows the directions, goes into the jungle, finds a guy, goes up to him and says, "Are you the Navapashanam master?" You know, I mean, it's sort of like the Ghostbusters. "Are you the key master?" And so the guy looks at him and shakes his head like the Indians do, and he goes, "What?" And so my friend tells him the naughty leaves directed me here to find a Navapasana master. Are you the Navapasana master? And the guy goes, yes. And he asks him for Navapasana. He says the people aren't ready, and he chases him away. And 9 years later, he started giving him the Navapasana beads. And I showed up in India a year and a half later and connected right in with this and was charged to come back to the U.S. and find 9 healers that I was supposed to give the beads to.
Well, talk about the beads for a minute. What, so the people understand what beads you're talking about, because this is also extraordinary.
Yeah, the beads look like, you know, little clay beads. They weigh about 5 grams. They're round. They have a hole through them. And when it touches water, it energizes the water. So in India, where most people will get dysentery if they even brush their teeth with Indian water, I can drink local Indian water after I dip a Navapasana bead in the water in and out 3 times. Takes 2 seconds, and my body's perfectly happy, and I can drink local water. So this Navapasana.
What's in the Navapasana beads?
Right, the Navapasana beads are made from, they say, 4,000 herbs and minerals, and the final ingredient turns this semi-liquid herbal mass into a stone-like substance.
Yeah.
And you know, it's hard. And so these beads have come out from Mother Nature, and I was given a bunch to bring to the West. I was told to give to 6 women and 3 men. Now, I was told this in deep meditation. I came out of meditation with this understanding that I was to give these 9 beads to 9 healers, 6 women and 3 men. That coincides with what many in the East are saying, that it's the women of the West that will lead the planet into the light. You know, 6 women and 3 men. So I find that very, very significant and interesting. So I proceeded to do that. I found 6 women and 3 men and offered them a bead, and you know, they make water and energize the water. I've energized a couple of 3,000 gallons of water and given it away to anybody that wants it, free.
Yes, I know. I come with my water bottles, and you do that for me. It's wonderful. You know, there is a tremendous charge in that water, and when I drink it, you know, with attention and awareness, I feel it go all through my body, and it has a very livening effect, and a very just seems to smooth things out and heighten an awareness of light somehow. Other things too, it's hard to put into words, but you definitely know that something powerful is happening when you ingest just even a little of the Navapasana water. It's remarkable. It also would be good to tell people that anyone can get this water from you as long as they pay the shipping, right? Do you want to talk about that a second?
Yeah, they can order up to 3 liters of water anywhere in the world. Just pay for shipping, no handling. Or come to my office in Northridge and bring 1, 5, 20 gallons of water, and I'll charge it up, and you take it away for free.
Yeah, it's a wonderful service. I'm looking at you and seeing behind your right shoulder the portrait of, now is that Augustia or is that Papa Bogar?
Yeah, that's actually Maha Ananda Siddha.
Oh, I was going to ask you about him too.
Yeah, Maha Ananda Siddha was a billionaire in India, and 12 years ago, Lord Shiva appeared to him and said, "You're blessed. Drop everything, go to this mountain, live in this cave, and feed and heal everybody that comes to you." And he did it.
Wow.
And then Shiva appeared again to him and said, "Oh, by the way, you won't ever eat, drink, or sleep again. You can sleep on fire, and you're going to live 500 years. And, I mean, he looks 38. He's 80, the body's 82. And just being in his presence is, you know, it's beyond description what happens. I mean, no thoughts are in my mind when I'm with him. I mean, it's just being present is all that's possible, and no thoughts, and it's really quite amazing. He's very fun and very playful and extreme. I mean, it's just he calls me Swaha, and he pushes cake in my mouth. He likes to celebrate people's birthdays, and last week 600,000 people came to see him.
Oh, wow. Now, do more than 500,000 people at a time show up at one time?
There were 600,000 people there. He's building the 7-story temple up the side of this mountain, and they're starting to come in large numbers. It's not even finished yet.
And do people experience healings when they go there?
Yeah, lots of healings, lots of healings. Yeah, but he helps with, you know, he's a Siddha alchemist also, of course, and, you know, he gives people formulas and, you know, village women that you know, want to get pregnant and are having difficulty. Or I saw him just pass his hand in front of a little deaf and dumb 3-year-old girl, and she started talking. And
wow.
One of my friends saw one of the boys that's helping build the temple fall off the 3rd story, and a piece of rebar pierced through his leg, and 3 hours later he's back working as if nothing happened.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's really so far outside of the box. I mean, it's you know.
What part of India is he? Where is he located?
He's indicated in the mountains between Bangalore and Chennai, and on my website there's a button that says Siddhas, and then there's a bunch of them that open up, and then you click on Maha Ananda Siddha, and on the top of the page there's a button that says directions to see Siddha, and it gives directions and a whole bunch of pictures of him.
Wow. It looks quite possible that I'm going to be going to India right after Thanksgiving, so hopefully that will be a destination for me. That would be amazing. Be fantastic.
Yeah, I hope you're able to see him.
Oh, me too. And you say that this really caught my ear a second ago. You said that he had been a billionaire.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, was that family money, or did he made this?
The only thing that I have heard is that, you know, he owned this company and he exported spices and herbs all over the world. And my impression is that this is something that he started up. And, you know, obviously his family still runs it, but he's walked away from it. And, you know, it's just, you know, like that.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, India, I saw that, well, we'll talk about this later. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Now, going back to the Navapashanam, I have a little quote here from your website that says that love is the sankalpa of Navapashanam. Well, first of all, I don't remember what a sankalpa is. Could you tell us?
Sankalpa is a Hindi word that is akin to the highest intention for all of the people on the planet. So it's like a wish, it's a prayer, and the sankalpa of the Navapashanam and the sankalpa of the other Siddha alchemy is one of the ingredients in the Navapashanam. The 4,000 herbs and the energy of those herbs is part of it. The second one is the sankalpa of the immortal yogi that my spiritual brother Sri Raman found living in the deep jungles. And that immortal yogi, we call him Papa Bogar. And the Maha Siddha Bogar was the immortal Babaji's second to last teacher. Agastya was the last teacher, and Bogar was the second to the last teacher. Bogar was in China and was known as Lat Tzu in China.
Right. Now that was around the same time as Buddha, wasn't it? Buddha and Pythagoras and so forth. I think around the 6th century BC, something like that.
Something like that. I'm not exactly sure of the timing, but you know, at that level, they're able to show up in different forms and different bodies, and you know, to blend into the Chinese culture. He transmigrated his fully awakened consciousness into a Chinese body, I guess, that had died, and some people call that a walk-in. I don't know, but anyways, you know, it's all just very, very curious to me.
Oh yeah, the whole phenomenon of walk-ins, I think, is something that probably is not very well understood. At least, certainly isn't you know, commonly understood at all. It is really interesting, but you know, for Papa Bogart to be I just have a mental image. I mean, you've explained that. I think your friend said that he lived he lives in a little hut that's like made of trash, you know, just the simplest possible place to live in the middle of a jungle, and yet a being with such transcendent knowledge and development to have been, well, you call him the immortal Bogart, don't you?
Yes, he's definitely an immortal yogi, and an immortal yogi, as far as I'm concerned, and the way I think they would understand it or talk about it, is that this is a living person that physical form has become the same as their soul. So the body and the soul become one. All distinctions between the body and the soul that reside in the mind disappear, and the body can transform completely into light. So in the Old Testament, we talked about Elijah and Ezekiel ascending into heaven with their bodies, and Jesus ascended into heaven with his body, and the Buddhists have something called rainbow body, in which the body dissolves into rainbow lights. And in India, it's called Jiva Samadhi. So these are immortals because they have moved beyond birth and death in a body. They actually did it in a body.
Yes, and I've heard that when this happens, apparently it's been witnessed a number of times, and when it happens, all that's left is like the nails, the fingernails and toenails, and the hair. Is that correct?
I think that in some traditions that is it, and I think that's left for the people as evidence, and some nothing's left.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a guy in South India called Ramalinga, and Ramalinga in 1890 went into his room and told his disciples to stay out. And they said, well, why? And they said, you wouldn't understand. And he went in there, and there was a flash of light under the door, and there was no windows, no exits, no nothing. They opened the door 4 days later, and it was empty. Nothing left. Nothing.
Wow.
And I went to that ashram and put my hand on the door, and my body shook for 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was very, 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 very cool. Ramalinga. Then there was another one, Maha, who lived in Salem, South India. And she lived in a body for 423 years before her body completely dissolved into light.
You know, I just intuitively know that I know and I feel that this is possible, and that this is a factual, a real phenomenon. But for people who may not have heard about this before, maybe you can explain a little bit more about how it would be possible for someone to live many centuries and then just, you know, check out as a flash of light. How?
You know, I wish I could. You know, I really think that that's above my pay grade. You know, I grew up in the West. I went to Catholic school, and we read these things about what Jesus did and what some of the Old Testament people did, and we just think that, well, that was a story, and maybe that happened, maybe it didn't, maybe it was exaggerated, and all I know is that the experiences that I've had in my life suggest and compel me to participate, in a deeper sort of way, with my spiritual practices. And without, trying to do anything, I think that this dissolving into light is just sort of a byproduct of a very, very deep and very full experience of oneness with God.
Yeah, well, it must be. Well, let me just tell you, we have to cut away for a second because I have to talk to our viewers. So, friends, for those of you who joined in late, I'll repeat what I said earlier. If you aren't already on Swaha Ron's, that's quite a mouthful, Swaha Ron's audience dashboard page, then you need to go there now. In the address box of your web browser, please type in this address, www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/Swaha. S as in Sam, W-A-H-A. And you'll know that you're on the right page when you see the words Audience Dashboard, and you can see the photo of our guest, Swaha Ron, or Dr. Ron Holman. Now, friends, Swaha Ron has a free gift especially for you as a thank you for listening to us here today on this interview and for watching and following what we're doing here. Swaha, your free thank you gift is called Articles About the Immortal Yogis, and we were just talking about the Immortal Yogis. In a sentence or two, could you please describe for our listeners what they're getting today in your Articles About the Immortal Yogis thank you gift?
So, I started writing when this interaction with these Navapashanam and meeting Maha, Ananda, Siddha, and all this stuff started really heating up in my life. And some of the articles are sort of an accounting of, what happened and where I went, and descriptions about the Siddha alchemy, some deeper psychological understanding of how this could be possible, some of the references to some of the great writers and great thinkers of India like Sri Aurobindo, and some pictures of Ramalinga and Maha in some of the articles. So it's a collection of articles that point to and talk about the topic today. And I think there's 5 or 6 of them in the collection that I put together.
Right.
And I hope that you'll have some interest to receive it.
Oh, well, I'm sure that it's going. I'm sure this is going to be a very popular thank you gift, especially because it's been written by somebody who has actively participated in these wonders and you have met, Maha Ananda, and I mean that in itself, it seems to me rather remarkable. So, your take on this comes from first-hand knowledge, which I think is certainly extremely valuable than someone who just does research and then writes an article off the internet or whatever, So this is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing them and reading them. Now, friends, I will tell you in a few minutes how to get your free thank you gift. But while you're on this page, I want you to find the special offer button. It's big and it's orange, so it's easy to find. Check on the special offer button now, and you'll know you're on the right page when you see the word special offer followed by the words Swaha Ron's Spiritual Alchemy Package. And on this page you can read all about the exclusive special offer that Swaha Ron has put together only for you for watching this interview today. Swaha, your package is called Swaha Ron Spiritual Alchemy Package. And in 2 or 3 sentences, please tell our viewers a little bit about what's in your special offer package that you and your team have put together for our viewers.
So there's 2 bottles of Ormus and 3 little folded up papers with dried Ormus. And the Ormus that is in the bottles is the consistency of sour cream. So it's kind of wet. If it was completely dried out, it would be like that's in the little packages. So what I did was I got from a couple of months, every month and every significant lunar or solar event like the equinox and the solstice and solar eclipses and stuff like that, we collect the Ormus. And so I picked a couple of months that I thought would be a good start, and picked 3 other months for the dry Ormus. And it is intentional alchemy, so that means that you set an intention before you take it. The Ormus is just a small little dab, half the size of a dime at a time, and set an intention for your body, for your mental emotional transformation, and for your spiritual progress, or your the highest spiritual goal. And then you take the Ormus, so you can put it on your behind your ears, you can put it on your third eye. You know, if you have the guidance to ingest it, you can do that. And it amplifies the outcome of your prayers and meditation. This is what I've found.
Well, it obviously does an awful lot, because I've talked to people there through, you know, that I've met through you, who have had remarkable things happen by using it. And I have had 2 things that I can talk about. When I first began hearing about this and getting acquainted with you and the Ormus and on all of that, it was a number of months ago, and I had a fall at night in a dark place where there was water on the pavement and so on. I just didn't see something, and I slipped and fell, and I fell, and I really did hurt my right knee, and it bothered me for, you know, quite some time. It was really sore. So I had just gotten one of the little bottles of Ormus, and I thought, well, let's see what this might do. So for about 3 days or 4 days, when I got out of the shower, I would take a dab of this and rub it all over my right knee until it was absorbed. And I immediately noticed improvement, and after about 3 or 4 days, the swelling and the pain was gone, and my right knee is fine. Now, another thing that I find, especially as a woman, I find this especially exciting. I use the pink Ormus, and we'll have to talk about the colors in the Ormus and all that kind of thing. But I have some pink Ormus that I use, again, every day when I get out of my shower. My skin is damp, and I use just a little bit, but I put it directly on my face. And it goes in, and it's absorbed very quickly, and it does have a bit of a chalky feeling to it. So what I do right away after that is I have a really good, sort of like an organic, good quality moisturizer, and I use that right on top of the Ormus, which somehow it feels to me that with the Ormus being in my skin like that, it's maybe it pulls the moisturizer deeper into my skin. I'm not sure, but all I can tell you is that after using this every day for a few months, any lines on my face are just getting fainter and fainter, And people are now telling me regularly, often several times a week, you look amazing. A friend of mine saw me and said that I looked years younger than the last time that she had seen me, which wasn't long ago. And what are you doing? Your skin is so, you know, so such a glow, and you look so great, and you look so young, and all of this. And it's the Ormus. So I can't say enough about it. I think it's really marvelous. And I was wondering, you know, I remember reading years ago about Count Saint Germain and how there was something that he gave some of the ladies, especially an old countess. I think she was, I don't remember now if she was French or Italian, but she had known him for many years. She met him when she was a young woman. And in her 80s, she was still considered absolutely beautiful. She had men after her constantly. She had lovers, and she looked about 40, and everybody said that it was that something, Saint Germain had given her something that was, you know, as you said a while ago, like a fountain of youth. And it occurred to me, I wonder if Saint Germain was collecting Ormus. You know,
It's an interesting thought.
well, he was known to dabble in all kinds of stuff, so it wouldn't be at all surprising. Well, so the Ormus is part of the special offer package, and you know, it's, oh, there's another thing. It helps your gums, you know, and I don't. It probably helps so many different things. You can just experiment with it, but it's deeply healing and harmonizing. It's amazing. So, friends, if you'd like to take Swaha Ron up on his special offer at this exclusive 50% discount, scroll to the top of the screen and click on the Add to Cart button. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. And remember that in a moment I'll be telling you how to claim Swaha Ron's free gift just for listening to this interview. All right, so we were talking more. Let's talk a little bit more about the Ormus, because I think it's so fascinating. Now, when you look up Ormus, you Google Ormus, you get articles that pop up also on monoatomic gold. What is the relationship between them?
Well, the only Ormus that I can really talk about is the stuff that we collect, and we use the wet method. And there's a variety of other methods of collecting or extracting Ormus. The wet method is very easy. We do use food-grade lye, which, of course, if you get it on your skin, it's really quite caustic. And but the Ormus that we collect is different than the monoatomic gold because it's collected in Navapashanam. So there's two pieces to this Ormus. In the bottles, the Ormus in the bottles is Ormus Navapashanam.
Well, and by that you mean that it's prepared in the water that's been treated with the Navapashanam beads, which...
Right, the Navapashanam is dipped into the water before we start collecting the Ormus. And then we use Navapashanam to wash all of the salt and all of the lye out of the Ormus once it concentrates at the bottom of the barrels. So the liquid in the bottles with that has the Ormus in it has some Navapashanam. All of the liquid in the Ormus is Navapashanam. Now the Ormus that's in that was dried out had Navapashanam in it. So it's infused with the energy of the Navapashanam also. So all of the Ormus has the 12 monoatomic metals in it. and that comes from the salts. So the Dead Sea salt is particularly high in the monoatomic gold, but all 12 metals in the platinum metal group is in the Ormus. And we use 4 or 5 different kinds of salt to collect the Ormus. The pink salt, obviously, is collected in pink salt. So it's the Himalayan salt, it's the Hawaiian salt, it's the Bolivian salt, that sort of thing. The white Ormus is collected in 4 or 5 different kinds of white salt. All of it has the Dead Sea salt in it.
So I know that I haven't quite figured out myself. I haven't quite figured out how to ingest it. Although I'm just about to start a little program ingesting it in little tiny amounts. Of course, I spoke a moment ago, too, about what I've experienced with it, using it externally, which is just beautiful. But I'm really intrigued about the colors, especially when you've told us that I know that when we do this, there are 6 big barrels full of the water that then, you know, and the salts that go in there. And then what's interesting to me is how at the same time, with the same, essentially what should be the same preparation, suddenly different colors begin to form. And you have talked about how with what seems to be the same method, one batch will be white or pink or something, and another one blue-black. Now, talk a little bit about the various colors and what energetics might be, involved in these in this phenomenon of the different colors.
Yeah, this is a very, very, very curious, and I feel like it's a blessing that's coming from the immortal yogis. And it's true that in 2014, for instance, in January, we collected the Ormus in black salt. And Ormus, when it comes through the portal, is white. Well, in January, collecting the white Ormus in black salt, based upon what we got last year in 2013 when we collected Ormus in black salt, we should have got a sort of light gray Ormus. Well, in January we didn't. We got a jet black Ormus. So what came through in January was way different energetically and in color than what we thought we were going to get. And there's been a number of us that have sort of sat with this, very, very, very psychic people, and have held it and looked at it and ingested it and just feel like, you know, the immortal yogis are playing with us and they must be liking what we're doing, because the Ormus that we've started collecting, you know, is way, way, way interesting and extremely, extremely powerful. And even during one collection, sometimes we'll get 1 or 2 barrels that are just different, just a different color. And it's the same salt, and it's the same lye and the same process, and yet 1 or 2 of the barrels will just show up, and these are 30-gallon barrels, will just show up differently. And so we just keep that separate and wash it and keep it separate, and so it's like that. And you know, I don't know what it means other than, you know, for me, it just seems like the Siddhas are blessing us and are having some fun with us.
Well, I know that when I participate in this little ritual and stir the water and all that, I sense. I mean, I see colors and I see lights and movement. Like, you know, I have been aware of vortexes forming around the individual barrels, and I get the feeling that they kind of I should say vortices, I guess, and that they seem to sort of coalesce into one larger vortex on some other level. That's my intuitive feeling about it. But some of the other people in the room who are more developed psychically than I am report seeing, very brilliant angelic forms and Mother Mary and so forth. So the energy, I hear the energy, and it's just so intense when this is happening. So something very, very powerful is going on. I was going to say a moment ago that, apparently, I've never looked into it, but apparently there are people collecting and selling Ormus through other channels, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be like this, not with the Navapashanam water involved and the kind of spiritual participation that we seem to be getting through perhaps the Siddhas and whatever other non-corporeal help and support is being lent to this process.
Well, I'm sure that any Ormus is most likely some pretty good and interesting stuff. And it's hard to say that this is better than that. It's just for people that find out about this Ormus and the Navapashanam and so on and so forth, they're just supposed to. And those that don't, they're supposed to do something else. And if everything's in divine right order all the time, everything's perfect, from not only what we've done, but what we're going to do. So, we all end up in the same place, I think, deepening our capacity to love. And that's what I've concluded from my research so far and what I'm interested in.
Yes, well, certainly, I mean, that's the ultimate, to somehow find every possible way to create manifestations of love in every way and in every instance and situation that we can, and I do think that that's essentially, ultimately, what we're here for. I concur with that wholeheartedly. I'm going to, again, shoot away for a second because we've got to talk again to our loyal viewers. And wow, I hope you're really enjoying this marvelous exchange. This is something really unusual. So, all right, let me take a moment to remind you, audience members, that by now you should have been to the special offer page. If you haven't, here's the link to Swaha Ron's webpage for this interview. www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/Swaha, and that's S as in Sam, WAHA. And on this page, look for the special offer button, then click on the special offer button now. And on this special offer page, you can read all about the exclusive special offer that Swaha Ron has generously put together with so many wonderful items. Now, for example, take a look at item number 1. Remember when Swaha Ron spoke about the amazing qualities of Ormus? Well, this is where you get so much about Swaha Ron has to say about Ormus and alchemical processes in healing. So go ahead, take a look, and take advantage of Swaha Ron's special offer at this exclusive 50% discount. And click on the Add to Cart button now. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. If you want to treat yourself to something really special and out of the ordinary in your life right now, you will certainly enjoy this special offer package and find so many ways, as I have, and as I'm, finding out, so many ways to use these things and these items to support your health, well-being, and spiritual evolution. So again, back to my my fascinating guest, Dr. Ron Holman, Swaha Ron. Let's talk a minute about boss moms. What are boss moms, and how are they beneficial?
Bhasmam is a Hindi word that means medicinal ash. And a few years ago, my spiritual brother told me that Papa Bogar had approved a parcel of blue sapphires. And I mean, that was enough right there. And I decided to participate. And 2 years later, I got a little bag of ash back that was somehow made from the blue sapphires. And I knew deep in my being that this was something that I got a deep yes with. And it is for people that get a yes without questions. And it is a alchemical support, like the Navapashanam, is intentional also, and deeply facilitated my spiritual process of clarity and of sensitivity. There's a whole, I think there's probably so many, I think there's probably 1,000 of these different formulas that, you know, beings that are functioning at a level like they are, you know how to make or organize or construct. And, you know, I find it so terribly interesting. So that's what a bosmom is.
Well, also, I know that there's a bosmom made of pearls. What is the... So these are just, these are created for different levels or different healing purposes, whether it be physical or mental, spiritual. What is your feeling on the most powerful application of the bosmoms?
Yeah, it can't really be said what it'll do. It might do nothing. The pearl bosmom is made from natural pearls, and I experienced it, you know, way, way differently than the sapphire bosmom. The sapphire bosmom is made from natural blue sapphires called neelam blue, and neelam is the color of blue that is in a peacock feather, the dark, dark blue. And you know, this is spiritual alchemy. So, I mean, part of the reason that I think that it's for people without questions, because when people ask questions about, you know, either what's in it or what's it going to do, the possibilities are limited based upon what the person says, because that sets then up the expectation of the person that asked the question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. Whereas if there are no questions and you just get the feeling, yes, this is something that would be beneficial, then it opens up a whole infinite gamut of possibilities depending on your need, your karmic choices, everything.
All of that. All of that. You know, and I just kind of laugh and smile, and you know, people try to thank me for giving it to them, and you know, I mean, instantly what I said the first time was, don't be thanking me. You know, I'm the mailman delivering what you've already karmically paid for. You know, and it's free to you.
That's so great. Well, on that, following that same line of thought, I know that you do not do what you're doing. I mean, here you are, a CEO of what is obviously a very successful company, and you have said that you don't do this for money. You don't need to. You have no desire to. So, you know, maybe talk a little bit about your service in this area. I like when people buy the special offer package. I think you've said that the money goes to support probably charitable activities in India. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Some of the alchemy, some of the different Ormuses, the water that I give away to people, I do that because that's what I'm told to do. And, while I spend, money to get the ingredients for the Ormus, and there is a cost for the Ormus, it is also, when I'm told or guided to give it away, that's what I do. There's other alchemy also that has come from India, and I send a lot of the money to India to be used for projects that some I'm aware of and some I'm not. I mean, it's sort of like getting a yes in my heart. When this was first offered to me, I just said yes. I didn't even think about, well, what does it mean, and what's going to happen, and this and that and the other thing. So the refinement of my intuitive knowingness is what I rely on to guide me.
I think this is just our next stage of development. I think that more and more of us are heading in that direction, and more people are being able to rely more and more heavily on their intuitive knowing. And I think it's eventually going to manifest as a much more harmonious world when we're all functioning at that level. Let's see. What else do I want to ask you about? Oh, I do. I hope it's okay to ask you about. Well, it's on your website, so it's okay to ask you, I'm sure. But you kind of knocked my socks off one day that I came to see you, and you gave me a little tarot reading in your conference room, and explained that I was definitely not the first one to receive your insight on this level, and that you had a meeting, a big convocation of HR, Human Resource Development Directors that came. Do you want to talk about this? I got such a kick out of this story.
Well, in 2010, I went to India to study with a master, and I didn't know what I was going to study with her, but when she mentioned tarot, I said, okay, I want to learn tarot, because I found 3 tarot cards in my mother's drawer when she died. And my mother, a devout Italian Catholic, would no more have had tarot cards in her drawer than she would have eaten glass. And so I became very curious about how all that happened and stuff. And so after the first day, this teacher, I call her Maha, said, Ron, you're as good as my students that have been doing this 20 years. And I said, oh, that's great. Thanks, Ma. I was impressed. Second day, she says, Ron, you're as good as me. Would you give me a reading? That was like, I mean, I'd never heard of anything like that. So I said, okay, yeah, sure. So I did, and one thing led to another, and I started using the tarot cards to write a monthly astrological psychology column for my website. It's in the Alternative and Complementary Medicine. And some of my staff have worked for me for over 20 years, and the most conservative one, who started having these quarterly meetings of our human resource contacts in some of the companies that we do business with, she says to me, would you do tarot card readings for the HR people? I looked at her and I said, Jane, are you sure? She said, oh yeah, I've checked it out. Yeah, they want it. The interesting thing is that all but one of them had had a tarot card reading before, and the ones that didn't always wanted one. Pretty funny. So these tarot cards, I use the Osho Zen deck, and it's like 1,000 years of experience of reading tarot cards opened up in me in like one day.
Wow.
And, you know, it's just, it's very, very, very interesting and exhilarating, and the information that comes out of my own mouth just knocks my socks off. I mean, I never know what I'm going to say, but, you know, I just look at the cards and my mouth opens and I start talking.
Well, it was very meaningful to me. I really enjoyed the reading, and you know, you brought up one thing in particular that made so much sense to me, but nobody else had ever mentioned anything like that. So, did your teacher? I've always been curious, and I don't know if there's any definitive determination about this yet, but did your teacher in India happen to say something about the origin of tarot? There is a theory. There are two theories that I've heard. That one, that the tarot deck was first developed in India and came, you know, gradually west, and that the other one is that it was developed in ancient Egypt. Do you have any thoughts on that, or did you get any information?
The impression that I got from Maha that taught me or awakened in me was that it was not an Indian skill that had come from Europe.
Oh.
And that you know, there really wasn't much of it in India. So if it got to Europe from Egypt or whatever, I don't exactly know how all that happened. I guess I have some general ideas that, you know, it probably was used in a variety of esoteric type of teachings, and a place to hold certain knowledge that was somewhat camouflaged, I guess, during the times when, you know, people that did psychic things were burned at the stake. But I probably was part of all sorts of esoteric schools and teachings from many, many, many places. That's what I suspect.
Yeah. Well, it's possible, too, that it might have been developed in very ancient India and then taken west with the Aryan migrations, and maybe just taken out of India until, you know, it came full circle and came back through European channels, which seems quite possible, too. The gypsies, again, the theory is that the origin of the gypsies is actually in India, and of course they've been traditionally great tarot card readers too. It's very, I think all this is really, really fascinating. So, well, it seems to me, let's talk about, you know, do you have memories of when something awakens in you and you have this great teacher who tells you that you're as good as she is and would you please give her a reading? This, to me, of course, with my orientation, indicates that you're remembering, you know, you're bringing forth memories very close to the surface of gifts and abilities and talents that you had in previous lifetimes. Do you have any memories of anything like that?
Not really. I think that, you know, what you're saying is true, and whether it's, you know, remembering from previous lifetimes, or whether it was just a, you know, download of an intact body of knowledge, you know, I don't know what the difference would be, but you know, I think that that's possible also, that we can just receive a intact download of knowledge that, you know, we're just supposed to or ready to receive.
Yeah. I would go with that too. Yes. Well,
So, you know, during those 2 days at night, uh, in dreams, I started getting presentations of information. And I remember laying in bed and feeling like, you know, somebody was knocking on the inside of my head. Get up and write this down. And I'm going, okay already. I found my computer, typed it out. 2 nights in a row is like that. And I started reading what I wrote down, and it was a brand new deck of tarot cards that I created when I got home. So, you know, I mean, information, you know, comes from a whole variety of places.
yeah. Oh, what an amazing, wonderful world, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Man, you know, if we weren't out of time, I would ask you to explain a little bit about, I mean, folks, what you're seeing behind Swaha Ron is just a portion of his office, which of a doctor friend of mine now that attends these things too calls it the little temple. But on the other walls also, it's just there are hundreds of wonderful, wonderful objects of every possible kind of a sacred object in here. And Ron has obviously collected these from certainly, I think, a lot of them obviously from India and Asia, but from all over, I would assume. And they're so beautiful, and the energy is in many of them is absolutely powerful. So he sits there and carries on corporate affairs surrounded by magical objects, you know. Obviously keep his consciousness pretty high, I would imagine. If we had more time, Swaha, which we don't, I have more questions and would absolutely love to go through them, but we're out of time, and I have to give some important information to our audience. All right, this is how you get your free thank you gift. You need to be on the audience dashboard webpage. And in case you somehow haven't seen this page yet, it's located at www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/Swaha. And that's again SWAHA. And to get to the thank you gift, click on the special offer button to get to the special offer page. And then scroll down and look for the box with the red dotted lines that has the heading Swaha Ron's Thank You Gift. Fill in your name, email address, and click the send button. Within moments, we'll automatically send you your link to Swaha Ron's Thank You Gift. So for you that joined this interview late and missed some of what we spoke about, don't worry. We'll be posting the replay in a few minutes, and we'll leave it up for 48 hours. And if you want to share this free 48-hour replay with a friend, please send them to www.alternativewisdomsummit.com. And also, if you haven't already done so, now is the time to take advantage of Swaha Ron's special, very special offer, because if you want some profound transformation, either spiritually or physically, then you really do need this. So take advantage of this exclusive 50% discount. Click on the Add to Cart button now. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. Friends, thank you for joining me on this interview. And Swaha Ron, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your marvelous stories, and your time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you all. Namaste.
Okay, that's all for now. This is the Alternative Wisdom Summit, and I'm Pamela Davis, sending you blessings and best wishes. Bye-bye.